Space helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman.
In answer to his question about the subjects.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman, Talk Today.
Oh, what a compliment. For that, I thank you.
What is happening now? There are hopeless and
Now it's time for us to stand up for God or we fall for nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
Good afternoon, Cayman. This is Kathy Miller filling in for Sterling Dwayne Banks on this edition of Talk Today, Wednesday, July 5th. This afternoon, we will be welcoming in our first segment David Kirkcaldy, who is Rotary International District 7020 Governor. I'm gonna mix that up, David, a couple times. And then following our discussion with David, we will be speaking about suicide awareness, prevention, and men's mental health, the big struggles that men deal with. So we're going to be having that discussion from 1 p.m. onwards. But first it will be with David, and before that, we've got to get a quick commercial break and a quick disclaimer, and then we will begin our Talk Today session this afternoon with David Kirkcaldy.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Live Communication.
Let your voice be heard.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
All right, good afternoon. This is Kathy Miller filling in for Sterling Dwayne Banks on this afternoon's edition of Talk Today. It is Wednesday, July 5th. We are taking phone calls today. You are welcome to give us a call at 1-800-534-8255, 949-8037, 949-6990, or you can WhatsApp call or WhatsApp message us at 925-3261. And in the studio with me right now, I am welcoming one of my very favorite business and community leaders, which I hope you know that, David. And if you didn't, now you know.
I had to look around to see who you were talking to.
You definitely know it's you. So I'm welcoming David Kirkcaldy to the studios this afternoon. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for having me on to the show today and to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about Rotary and my role in Rotary in our district. And interestingly, my focus area does turn on the topic that you will be segueing to at 1 o'clock,
right?
Mental health, mental wellness. So I think it's a good opportunity to talk that as well as we have our conversation.
Absolutely. And what our listeners don't know is that ever since I really kind of started filling in for Dwayne with Talk Today, David is always somebody that I reach out to be like, hey, David, do you want to come talk about this issue or that? And he's like, I don't know, Kathy, I think you can do this. And when it's something, I'll be ready for you. And I think this is a really momentous occasion
thank you.
In your career, really, in your life. And so it's what we're here to talk about. You becoming
Thank you.
District Governor of Rotary International District 7020.
Correct.
District Governor.
Yep.
That's a pretty big role, right?
It's a lot.
So give us a little bit of history. I'm sure most people know, some might not know, but a little bit of background about Rotary International and its impact in the Cayman Islands.
Sure. Well, just on a very high level, Rotary International is over a 100-year-old organization. I'm horrible with dates, but I want to say it's about 117 years old at this point. And it was founded by a gentleman, Paul Harris, who moved from a small town in the United States to Chicago, where he did not have a circle of friends. So what he wanted to do was he essentially placed what would nowadays be a Craigslist type of ad and asked if anybody wanted to join him for a meeting. It was held in his office, and subsequent meetings were held in the offices of other men, and it was all men at the time. And out of that came the name Rotary initially, because they rotated from one person's office to the next. Oh. And it very rapidly started to expand with chapters opening up throughout the United States and then internationally. And really, its purpose initially was fellowship. It was somebody who wanted that fellowship of that is so often hard to find when you move to a larger city or come to a new island, or just of making your way in the world. And what was really unique about Rotary over the years is, while we don't put as much focus on it now, was the classification system, where if there was an accountant, for example, in the club, theoretically there were no other accountants in the club. And that allowed for sort of more open conversations with people because they weren't sort of talking business in their specific business line. But it also broke down silos. So I know even to this day, it's a big feature of clubs that you walk into any Rotary club and you will see people from a broad cross-section of business backgrounds, personal backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think that's just a really wonderful thing with all the troubles that constantly seem to be prevalent in the world. To have an organization where people of all different stripes sit down, break bread together, and can have that fellowship is a remarkable thing to continue to have to this day. As time went on, service elements were added, and certainly Rotary around the world is known for the service projects that it does. Foundation was added, started with a very small donation, less than $100, and today has grown into a foundation that is over $1 billion worth of funds invested, and that foundation funds grants around the world to support literally tens of thousands of projects every year. The one that a lot of people would know and recognize is the End Polio Now campaign.
Yes.
Which Rotary, when it does reach the end, and every year we're within sort of 2 to 3 or 4 people that unfortunately contract what was at the time one of the most devastating diseases. Within a few years, we hope that we will have that eliminated, and at that time it will be only the second disease after smallpox that has ever been eliminated. And it's proven to be just a wonderful rallying cry for Rotary around the world. All clubs raise funds for that program. And Rotary has morphed and evolved. There are now 7 areas of focus. So, environment, maternal and child health, just a whole range of areas of focus. So I would say that anybody, anywhere can find a place within Rotary for their particular interest, what they want to do for service. And as a result of that, they will also have a group of people who become friends and people that become really folks that they can turn to for advice, wise counsel, and just friendship. And that's something that I think is just really wonderful. And I'm excited about the role because I get to go around our district, which is 10 countries, and share my enthusiasm for this wonderful organization.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into your role a little bit, but we're going to get more into the story of you joining Rotary, really the story behind you and Rotary Club International. So now we know about the history of Rotary, a little bit of its impact in Cayman. But how did you first hear about it, and what made you want to join?
So I was kind of that geek that knew about it all along because
I don't believe you were a geek ever, but okay.
My dad worked for a gentleman by the name of Spencer Marshall. There was also another gentleman by the name of Lionel Downer in that office at the old Cayman Insurance Center. And my sister and I would, at the end of school, walk from school back into town to the office and then just hang out until the end of the day. And Spencer and following Lionel were both presidents of the club that I eventually joined. So from a very early age, I would see the Rotary wheel and wonder what it was all about, and just the camaraderie that this group had. And so I think from a very early age, I knew that if I was going to join a service organization, that was probably going to be the one. And then I had the good fortune, after returning to Cayman after college, to be invited first as a guest and then proposed as a member by that same past president, Spencer Marshall. And that was 28 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 28 years.
We're not going to do the math on that. But okay.
Yeah, I know. It's a good thing we're on radio, because I might have been about 14 when I joined. But honestly, it's been a wonderful journey. You come in and you don't know what you don't know, and you're excited to participate in the service projects that we do. Our club has some, we seem to be very heavily loaded with Christmas-oriented projects. So we've traditionally always done the official Christmas tree lighting ceremony in town, which is just an awesome thing to do. That's also approaching, I think that's about 57 years we've done that as a club. And Boxing Day lunch. So we bring seniors in from around the island and serve them lunch. And again, an opportunity for the seniors to get together, oftentimes with folks they haven't seen since the last Boxing Day lunch, and put on some old-time Cayman music and reading of poems. And it's just a wonderful, heartwarming thing to do. But I would say all the clubs in the Cayman Islands have their own signature projects. Some are focused heavily on literacy, and others have a health focus. And every club has areas that it has its strengths, right, and it focuses on. There's a place, as I said, for everybody.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for that little brief intro onto Rotary International,
sure,
and also its influence in the Cayman Islands. We got to go to a quick commercial break, and then we will be back with the District Governor 7020, David Kirkcaldy. How can you make a classic BLT sandwich even better? Well, by adding tuna. Wow. The land meets the sea in Subway's new sandwich, the Tuna BLT, available for a limited time. The Tuna BLT is exploding with flavor. Imagine crispy, juicy bacon strips on top of tuna, fresh lettuce, and slices of tomato, topped with your favorite sauce and choice of freshly baked bread. Enjoy the best of both worlds with the Tuna BLT from Subway. Subway, eat fresh.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks this afternoon. And on this segment of Talk Today, I'm speaking with David Kirkcaldy, who has just been appointed the District Governor for Rotary International District 7020.
You're going to get this.
It's a whole big mouthful. There's a lot to say there. there really is.
Still just David.
Yes, I don't know if we can hear you on the mic there, David, but I think, okay, now we can. Okay. All right. Right before the break, you told us a little bit of the history of Rotary International and its impact in Cayman and how you got involved, so we can kind of credit your dad and the other gentleman at the Cayman Insurance Center, I think you said.
That's right.
Who really you followed and
yeah,
what they were doing.
Spencer Marshall was a huge influence, and there was another gentleman, Lionel Danner, was also a past president, and they were both in the office, and yeah, I just sort of grew to know the organization through osmosis more than anything else.
Now, what kind of roles? I've been to a couple Rotary meetings, and I knew for me, I was like, I just can't give the level of commitment that it was needed, at least at that time when I went to these meetings. So it does take a lot of commitment and dedication, I believe, from somebody who's going to be a member. But what kind of different roles did you encompass during all of your years as a...
Sure. Well, you join as a member and you get involved in projects, and before you know it, you're being put forward for the annual elections, director role perhaps, chairing up a particular service area like vocational service or community service, or just, and there's many areas and everybody has their strengths, and some people like to be more behind the scenes, and there's a space for everyone. So yeah, you sort of get drawn in to it in that way. In 1995, I want to say, yeah, getting my timelines right. I was elected as president of our club, and so you serve the year as president. And if you've talked to anybody who's been a president, by the time the 1st of July rolls around, which is our changeover, you kind of want to just unplug and check out for a little bit of time, because it can be a lot. And since then, I've served in a couple different district committees. I mentioned the Rotary Foundation, so they have chairpersons in the district that really work to ensure that all the clubs in the district are putting out the right information, that they are focusing on the areas that the RI, Rotary International, wants them to. So I've served as grants chair, I've served as endowment chair, so there's a large endowment fund, and major gifts donation chairperson. So you get an experience on a wider district level, and you attend different district conferences, and you get to know Rotarians throughout our district. Our district is quite unusual in that it's 10 countries. Other districts might be 5 or 6 counties in the United States, for example. Oh. And a district governor can maybe just drive around to go to their meetings within sort of a 2 to 4 hour range. Not so for our district. But yeah, that's sort of my progression, I guess, through our local club structure.
Okay. So you did have a number of different kind of leadership roles within Rotary International, the club here in Cayman. Okay. So I'm assuming that you have to be either elected or appointed to become district governor, right? How did this opportunity come
So I guess one of the prerequisites is to be what they call assistant governor for an area. And in the Cayman Islands, currently that is Will Pinot. He's the assistant governor. So that person in every country essentially represents the district governor in country. There are 5 clubs in the Cayman Islands. And in Jamaica, for example, I believe there are 5, maybe 6 assistant governors, just because of the scale of the country and the number of clubs there.
Okay.
So I did that role for 3 years, and you have to have done that role for a minimum of 1 year before your club can nominate you. I did not get through on the first pass, and I will tell you I did not get through on the second pass.
Was it something you wanted to do, though? Was this an aim?
Yeah, I think inside I wanted to. I think anybody that, I think anybody that, I guess I'm somewhat inherently distrustful of somebody who advocates for and sort of campaigns for a role. I never did that, and that's actually quite discouraged.
Interesting.
If my skill set and background was something that our club thought was worthy of being put forward, then I appreciated that. If then the wider district thought that it was appropriate to put my name forward, then I appreciate that also, and I would just put my best foot forward. But yeah, it's definitely not something that that anyone would campaign for or you might aspire to it. But for me, I just welcome the opportunity to serve. My main reason for joining Rotary, rather than using the available time that I had or any available resources that I had to give back to our community, I thought it was better to join an organization such as Rotary, but it could also equally be Kiwanis or Lions or any number of organizations where your heart lies, and give my time and talent and treasure through that organization, because there's a multiplier effect, and you also gain friends from a diverse background.
What is that multiplier effect?
It's just, I think it's more enjoyable. I could go out and try myself to build a wheelchair ramp or host a little dinner at Christmas time for somebody. But it's so much more effective when you're doing that with a number of people, and the diversity of folks within Rotary clubs leads to a really interesting synergy when you come to plan an event, because you got people that are great on the social media side. You got folks that put on events all the time, so they know exactly how to coordinate this or that.
Right.
You've got other people who are salt of the earth Caymanians that know people and shut-ins that need meals and can work on that angle. So there are people that find their place wherever they feel comfortable, and there is no pressure to be a director, to be a board member, to be a president of a club.
But it's something that you could see yourself.
Yeah, I think I could, and
step into those roles.
Yeah, I think it's, if you have the time and the energy to do it, and the support of others to do that, then I think, for me, the island has been good to me and to my family, and I find this a very rewarding way of giving back for the good that the island has done.
Yeah, I would say you've been very good to the country as well. Absolutely. No doubt with that. Now, I think you said 28 years you've been a member?
Yep.
Okay, so 28 years, you do different roles, and for me, it's understandable to, hey, let me see how far my leadership can go, or let me see what more I could do. I understand that it's like it's an ambition inside of you, but not solely for yourself, solely for what that club can do, what you all can do together to achieve something.
Yeah, and if you
shared vision.
If you feel like you can help to raise the eye level on certain issues or topics, or that you can help to get the best out of people, then give it a shot. And they don't just plop you into the role. They don't just say, okay, last year you're elected and this year you're the district governor. It's really a 3-year process. You've already had a year of managing the sort of the high level stuff on assistant governor level, but you also then have the opportunity, once you are nominated and approved by at the district conference, you are then a district governor nominee for a year, and there's training sessions that you attend with your district governor nominee class, which is 30 district governors all the way from Suriname up to Pittsburgh as part of our 2 zones that we're a part of. And then the following year, so last year you would have been the district governor-elect.
Which is what you were?
Last year was district governor-elect. So then there are additional training courses and seminars that you attend and learnings that you take away, and you're just sort of gathering more and more experience, so that when you do turn the page on the 1st of July, you're not coming in cold. You've really got a great network of folks behind you. You've done a bunch of courses, and you sort of have a broad idea of what's going on. Of course,
you've been guided into that.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're in a junior position for that role, and then
it's essentially an understudy in a way.
That makes sense. And it makes sense when you're saying the training sessions that are happening for a year and the different areas you have to travel to, because I was looking at some of your social media, and I'm just like, well, David is a world traveler. I need to join Rotary Club if this is what it means.
Well,
so for a minute there, I thought you were just going to be traveling to different countries and being able to oversee what's going on, and you're enjoying the cushy part of the job, but it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and we've got a business to run as well, so there's a bit of time slicing that's happening there. But at the end of the day, our district is quite unique. We've got, as I mentioned, 10 countries, so there is the obligation for a district governor to travel and visit in the course of their year, and the broad understanding is that will be before the end of December, all the clubs in your district. So we've got a total of 90 clubs, and as well as 2 satellite clubs. Quite a number, I would say, around 15 or approximately 15 are in Haiti. So that's a challenge, obviously, visiting clubs in Haiti. And what will happen there is that we will have an interclub assembly, and everybody from the various clubs, or the leadership of the clubs, will come together in one location.
Which 10 countries are you?
Yeah, so the 10 countries, of course, Cayman Islands, yes. Jamaica, the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Bahamas, Haiti, U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, San Martin, and St. Bart's.
Wow. Let me know if you need a PA on the trips only.
It's an unpaid position, so that suddenly makes it less appealing.
Okay, that's pretty big.
But yeah, and so your obligation is to go to each club and preferably attend their regular meetings. So if a DG has come to Cayman in the past, they would go to the sunrise meeting at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday, like I did this morning. But they would also go on a Thursday to the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman meeting. They would maybe go on Tuesday night to another, or on Wednesday evenings to the new Sunset Club. And of course, we would also take them to Cayman BRAC, where they would visit the BRAC Club. So you try to attend the meeting at the time they normally do, and you're the keynote speaker at that meeting, where you're essentially delivering your focus area, but also sort of, complimenting them on the things they're doing well as a club, and maybe gently cajoling them into doing some other things and maybe a bit better. But separately to the club meeting, you're also obligated to have a board meeting with the board, where the various committees will report on what they're doing, and you want to see certain documents. Certainly we're taking in the public's money as donations that are spent back to the public. For us, financial record keeping and transparency around that area is incredibly important. If we don't have the public trust in how their donations are used, then we're nothing. So, part of my role as I travel is to make sure that those sorts of elements, basically you're the one person that ends up every year going around and getting to see these things in person, as opposed to what they may be reporting online.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's a pretty big responsibility, I would
say.
Yeah. Do you have certain initiatives that Rotary International wants you to ensure that, you reach these initiatives, or these certain goals within this year as district governor?
Yeah. So there's, the organization is a membership organization. So one of the things, I'm listening to you talk about, you didn't feel that you could join Rotary because of the time commitment. I would say that may have been true a few years ago, but I would say now in Cayman, you've got 4 clubs in Grand Cayman. They meet in the evening, they meet in the morning, they meet at lunch. So in terms of the time for the meetings, there are options for everyone. But beyond that, the club that we would have known from our grandfathers or our dads or moms is not the way a lot of new clubs are being formed. There are all sorts of new and alternative club formats that are out there, satellite clubs, impact clubs. You've got a group of people, for example, that for a number of reasons can't join a club, or they don't want to have to do a weekly meeting, but they're passionate about service in a particular area or a particular type of project. They may be reading aids, or they may be into plastic free and mangrove in the environment. Well, you could do an impact club that solely focuses on impact projects around that area, and it's affiliated with another mainstream Rotary Club, but it allows others to come into the fold. And for me, the magic is that it allows them access to the grants that the foundation offer. So that's sort of the secret sauce. Our island traditionally has been a big donor to the foundation and not a big receiver of grants coming into Cayman.
Oh, okay.
Which is good because we're one of the more prosperous countries within the region on a per capita basis. But that is the secret sauce of being affiliated as a Rotary Club, is their access to the grant funding that is out there. And of course, that's all has to be properly documented and reported, but it allows for you to fundraise in a different way than sort of going out and looking for tickets and the traditional methods of fundraising. You can really have a big impact in your community.
We got to go to commercial break.
Sure.
When we return, we're going to still listen to a little bit about what your goals are as district governor in this next year. And then as well as I know that there's a certain platform or focus that you want to have during this year as district governor. So we're going to talk about what that platform is as well when we return from the commercial break.
Hey, is your phone slow, overheating, and dropping important calls? Don't fret. This summer, it's time to flip out with Digicel. Introducing the all-new Samsung Flip 4 with its sleek design and cutting-edge features. You'll flip into the summer in style and confidence. This summer, you can grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4, all just for $145. Flip into the summer with Digicel. Visit a Digicel store near you and grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4 and the amazing 7-day Prime Ultra plan today.
Homeowners, protecting your family and property is crucial during the season, and you should always assess insurance needs long before a storm makes landfall. Most insurers won't issue new policies or increases when a storm is imminent. Cayman Insurance Center's team of professionals can help owners like you find the most comprehensive coverage and competitive rates. Call the insurance professionals at Cayman Insurance Center 949-4657 or email info@cic.com.ky. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call Cayman Insurance Center's insurance professionals today at 949-4657.
The Commission for Standards in Public Life reminds all persons subject to the Standards in Public Life Act that the Register of Interests portal is now accepting declaration submissions.
All annual declarations are due on the 30th of July.
If you need assistance to complete your declaration, the Commission for Standards in Public Life has a new tutorial video available to provide further guidance. Visit www.standardsinpubliclifecommission.ky/register of interest to view the tutorial video today.
Barry's Golden Jerk, the Cayman Brac sensation, ranked the #1 restaurant in Cayman Brac by TripAdvisor and home of the authentic jerk. Barry's Golden Jerk, serving large portions of the best jerk chicken and pork. Open Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday near the airport, or call 917-6713. Barry's Golden Jerk. It's simply better.
Healthcare Pharmacy, caring about your health for the past 25 years. Radio Cayman's premier health show.
Alzheimer's and dementia, are they the same disorder?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Is heard on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor, where they care about your health. Transfer and refill your prescription online. Visit healthcarepharmacy.com. KY or call 947-8900. Healthcare Pharmacy, now with a second location in Governor's Square. Healthcare Pharmacy, where they care about your health.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
Listening to the general public.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Because
there are more questions than answers.
Waiting to take your calls right now.
What the public is saying.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Banks. And in this segment of Talk Today, I have David Kirkcaldy, who is Rotary International District 7020 Governor. How's that? Did that sound
That's
even
perfect.
better?
Yeah.
Am I getting better and better? Okay.
Getting closer to that PA job.
All right. Oh, hey, I like the sounds of that. All right. Thanks, David. You had told us right before the commercial break what some of the goals are that you have as the district governor. And I want to know about the theme that you have for the year, or how this theme is introduced that you will be focusing on.
Right. Well, thanks for that. Every president, as they come in, they will normally unveil a theme at the training that all district governors are given. And this year, the theme of our incoming, well, I'm used to saying it for the last year now, our now president of Rotary International is Create Hope in the World. Gordon McAnally is from Scotland, and he had the great misfortune to have his brother pass away from suicide. And from depression that was, unfortunately almost invisible to those that was around him. This gentleman suffered quietly with this terrible thing. Gordon has now a platform where he has two focus areas. He's got peace building. Again, as we were chatting off air, if you don't create the conditions for peace, if you don't have peace in an area, if you don't have dialogue, it becomes incredibly difficult to do much else when people are talking at each other as opposed to listening to each other. So peace building is a big focus of his. But the other one is mental health and mental wellness, again, from his own personal story. I've had the enormous good fortune to, prior to this being announced as a theme, I had already selected as my focus area in the district during my year as mental wellness and mental health, and was elated to find out that this was going to be something that RI was going to be focusing on.
Why, can I ask, why was that already a theme in your mind?
If you recall, if you recall just a few years ago, and even unfortunately very recently, there were a number of people who, after struggles, some known, others unknown struggles, took their own life here in the Cayman Islands. The person that really struck me, and the more I thought about it, motivated me to do something like this and to talk more about it, was the passing of Addie Kelly, Rhonda and Kirk's daughter. They have taken that tragedy and have transformed what they're doing in her memory through the Alex Panton Foundation, also into the Memorial Scholarship and other activities to raise awareness about this challenge. But I, at that time, sort of determined that they always say that the focus area that you're going to do doesn't necessarily present, like it sort of presents itself as opposed to...
It emerges.
Yeah, it kind of emerges out of conditions around. And certainly when I have talked about this theme and this topic, especially with Rotaractors, which is sort of like typically sort of 18 to the 30-ish year range, it resonates very strongly with them because, again, the folks that are suffering and have had their lives really uprooted over the last couple of years with the COVID lockdowns and all the challenges that they face there, this is an age group that statistically is more prone than other age groups, and statistically is having a harder time than that same age group just even a few years ago. So Create Hope in the World, for me, as we go around the district, is going to be adding a focus on mental health and mental wellness. I don't know all the answers. I'm a rental guy. I don't know anything.
You're a marketing guy as well.
Bit of that.
Big time that.
But what I do know is that we can start conversations. Mm-hmm. We won't have all the answers. The good thing is we won't even know if we've been successful because the statistic wouldn't be there, which is a good thing not to happen. But we start conversations. And I think you're going to have a gentleman talking about this topic, particularly related to men in the next segment.
Yeah.
But I think particularly with men, we don't open up about insecurities, about depression, about anxieties that we're facing or challenges that we're having. And,
what do you think are the reasons for that?
Oh, my goodness. I'm sure they're... it's almost like a thing that you're taught from the get-go as a guy, like you got to be the strong one. You can't show weakness, and then
man up.
Peer pressure around for, a guy is supposed to be macho. And then if you talk about feelings, if you talk about vulnerabilities, it's perceived, or quite often it's perceived as a weakness. And as President Gordon said in his address to us, absolutely nothing could be further from the truth. If you talk about these challenges that you're having, it is actually a sign of strength. It is a sign of bravery, and it is a brave thing to do. And I want to amplify that. One of the campaigns that we're piggybacking off of is something called Don't Bottle It Up. We're trying to roll that out to the clubs. One of the things that I've done to make sure that this message gets out there is to encourage, we've appointed a district mental wellness, mental health chair, and that person in every country will have a mental wellness coordinator, and every club we're encouraging them to have a mental wellness ambassador. And really just trying to propagate information and resources out. Next week, we embark on our first official visit as district governor, and we're going to the Turks and Caicos Islands. And one of the things we've put together is a binder, and within that we'll be gathering resources on statistics of incidents of harm, of suicide, depression in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and the resources that are available there, so that when I go and talk, I'm not speaking about the Cayman context or the Cayman experience, but I'm speaking to Rotarians and Rotaractors there about their specific issues and the resources that are there. And perhaps for the first time, having someone from the podium talking about issues that perhaps are not addressed as often as they should in a more public setting.
Right.
So again, none of us are experts in the area, but we're just trying to start the conversations and direct people to the resources.
I think that's a very great initiative to take on.
Yeah, and we'll do that through every island and localize the information and try to make it relevant to them, and especially the age groups that have the most challenge in those countries.
I hope that there is, in the sense of participation, of people joining the Bottle It Up campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I hope there's great success in that, in supporting what this theme is and supporting these discussions. And the very first step, I think, is just talking.
Exactly.
And that seems to be the very hardest step, especially for a lot of men.
Yep.
So it's...
And I'd encourage anyone that's listening, don't bottle it up. Find someone to talk to. And, there are so many we're blessed in the Cayman Islands. There are so many resources here, but I recognize it can sometimes feel overwhelming. We've all had periods in our life where we just feel absolutely and completely overwhelmed, and financially it's challenging now, and that's a huge factor in it. But there are so many things that can cause somebody to go down that spiral, and we just need people to understand that they're seen, that they're heard, that there's somebody out there that can give them some guidance and some assistance.
And some hope.
Yeah. Create hope.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I have to cut our conversation right now. We got to go to the 1 p.m. headline news, and then, as you know, we're going to continue discussing the struggles that men are having with mental health and suicide prevention awareness.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for allowing me to talk about Rotary and our district.
And congratulations again for being named District Governor for Rotary International District 7020. Pow.
Well done.
Thank you so much for joining us. And let's go to the 1 p.m. headline news.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
100 Women Who Care held their second event of the year, with Breast Cancer Foundation Cayman Islands winning the main pot of $5,000 donated by the members. Cayman Islands Crisis Center and Plastic Free Cayman both left with $1,250. In total, the event raised $7,500. Devices, including mobile phones, are set to be banned from classrooms to stop them from disrupting learning, according to the Dutch government. The initiative is being introduced in collaboration with schools and is to take effect at the start of next year. There will be some exceptions, including for students with medical needs or disability, or for classes focused on digital skills. The ban is not legally enforceable, but may be so in the future. And Iran is facing legal action at the International Court of Justice over the shooting down of Ukraine International Airlines flight PS752 in January 2020. 4 nations, Canada, Sweden, Ukraine, and the UK, are seeking damages for the families of the 176 people on board who were killed. The plane was hit by 2 missiles fired by a Revolutionary Guards air defense unit after it took off from Tehran. 3 days later, Iran admitted mistakenly shooting down the plane. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
It's one of the best moments of your life when you welcome your baby into the world. The HSA's experienced women's health and maternity team provides the highest quality of care throughout your pregnancy and delivery. As a JCI accredited hospital, we are the leader in maternal care, safely delivering over 700 babies annually. Visit hsa.ky for more information. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
In the early 1900s, the Sister Islands enjoyed a relative prosperity, with the cultivation and subsequent exports of coconut being the primary industry, as Commissioner Sanguinetti would note during his 1902 visit.
Business seemed brisk. There has been a very large coconut crop, such as not born for years, and the carrying capacity of the island vessels to deal with the export of nuts have been shipped between October and February last.
The coconut industry would continue to expand with the expansion of plantations into large tracts of unused land.
Information from this historical vignette was sourced from Founded Upon the Seas, A History of the Cayman Islands and Their People by Michael Creighton and the New History Committee.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks this afternoon, and I just want to thank David Kirkcaldy, who is the Rotary International District 7020 District Governor. He just joined us in our first segment of the show. And in this segment, I am welcoming from the Wellness Center, I believe founder as well of the Wellness Center.
Yes.
Clinical psychologist, Dr. Shannon Seymour.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and especially because it was yesterday I reached out and said, I really want to have this conversation on men's mental health and suicide prevention awareness, given the loss that we did have in our community exactly a week today. So
I think it's an important conversation. So
it's important. It's always important to have. I dislike, the fact that we have to have it, but it's stuff that people don't always want to talk about, but it's something that's so prevalent. And the more we talk about things, I think the easier it is to face them and understand it. So thank you so much for coming with me on air today.
Yeah.
We might be joined by one more psychologist as well, but we'll wait and see.
Okay.
So I guess I wanna really start this segment off in saying, yesterday evening I reached out to maybe about 8 different men, about late 30s to mid 60s, and I asked them what the biggest struggles they're facing. And they're men that I figured that would be able to trust me enough to say, these are the things that I struggle with, but the key is that they're not talking to anybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they said, yeah, these are the things that are on my mind or that I struggle with, I do follow up with, do you feel like you can talk to somebody? And those answers were pretty interesting, but I do want to start and say that when I asked these men what their struggles were, they had a lot of similar struggles, and then some were very individual, I guess, depending on their circumstance, right? But the similarities mostly were in health. Men don't like to talk about their health condition,
right?
What's going on with them, what the possibilities could be. the overwhelming feeling to be the provider in their family or relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health issues. So if they are feeling sad or depressed, they shut down. They won't talk about it. Finance. A fear of not being able to function properly as a man. And I think that's related to the medical issues.
Sure.
Shame, past shame. Ability to live up to day-to-day expectations and general performance. Of what's expected. A man should be this and a man should be that. Not feeling appreciated by a family. Or feeling like a failed male figure in a household, which leads to feelings of worthlessness, unworthiness, I should say. Peer and societal pressures, being a single dad and custody biasness that they have to deal with. Being vulnerable, breaking stigmas. So these are the main struggles that I got from a group of gentlemen who responded to me. There's other quotes I'm going to share a little later, but this is how we're opening the show. Is we do want to focus on men's mental health today, and we've done a lot of focus with teens and children as well in the past. But given that our loss was a middle-aged man last week, and we did have a mother a year ago who also took her life. She was in her 40s, very close to my age. So it's just really, really sad. It's not necessarily, you'll think that, okay, you're at a certain point in your life and you're okay, but that's not necessarily the case. So
right.
I guess from your experience in treating people, we can't give patient information. And
yeah, no, of course, but we can have this conversation though, and I think a couple of things come to mind as I was listening to you. If we think about the sort of the high-profile celebrity deaths by suicide, often those are men that you would think, they've reached that point in their life where everything looks great and everything is settled. And then I think when you contrast that with some of the challenges that the men that you spoke to are expressing as sort of underlying, we start to see the vulnerability as it relates to men in our community and mental health, and that there's this expectation that they present as together, that they don't show any weakness or vulnerability, but yet the things that they shared with you those are pretty common themes around expectations, health and well-being, the ability to financially provide, not having any outlet to process their experiences, their worries, their thoughts, their insecurities. And that's, those are pretty broad-reaching themes that we see when it comes to men's mental health. And it's interesting because it's almost like it's the exact same things that create vulnerability amongst men are the same things that stop men from seeking help, right? The expectation that they should be the one in charge.
Right.
So then why would you ask for help?
Right.
And so it puts this, a lot of pressure. And I'm the mom of 2 adult men, young men. And so it's definitely something that's really important to me personally and professionally.
Okay. I just want to interrupt in this moment to say also good afternoon to Dr. Chantel Basson. I hope I didn't butcher the last name again.
Basson, no, it's absolutely
Basson,
fine.
okay.
I'll take pretty much anything in the ballpark of Basson.
Well, I want to get it right. I like to, be respectful, get the names right.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here again.
Yeah, thank you for joining us as well.
Hi.
As explained to via email, all the rest that we were just opening up with what some of the men's struggles were.
Yeah.
So Dr. Seymour as well just shared some of her experiences and her experiences in speaking with different patients and men and understanding what their struggles are. And I know you've just joined the conversation, but if you do want to jump in and let us know what you think are, from your experience as well, your knowledge, what those struggles are that men are facing.
I was also having a really interesting conversation with my husband, who's another Dr. Basson. He works at HSA and sees far more adult men than I do. And he was also talking about there being a real difficulty in terms of discriminatory experiences from workplace advancement. And he sees that a lot, especially in men here who maybe have been in the same job for 35 years and seen lots and lots of people being appointed to job roles above them and not being given different chances. And he said that the impact that he's seen that have on many men in their mental health, he said, is really huge. And it's something particularly since we moved to the island that he has seen that here particularly. But he said financial worries, relationships, having a trauma history. But that discriminatory element really stood out to me when we were having that conversation.
That's a really interesting one. I
That
don't
is
think
really
either of us
interesting.
mentioned
Yeah.
that.
I think that's really profound, actually, and worthy of quite a bit of thought and maybe some reflection in terms of, what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that mental health concerns, although we can talk sort of globally and we can look at global themes and we can look at global statistics, in terms of our response, we often have to be very contextual, like what's going on within the context of this community. And I think that information is really contextual, and that isn't something maybe he would have experienced in a bigger practice back in the UK where you're from, versus what is the context here in terms of what is creating difficulty for our men here.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I think all the men that I did ask last night were all Caymanian. But that wasn't a response I'd received.
That is interesting.
So that is a very interesting one. But that's coming from what your husband's data is telling us, right?
That was a big one for him. He's seen multiple men, Caymanian and otherwise, who have talked especially about that in the Caymanian community.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest themes that came out of me speaking with different men last night was, I want to say the number one place to start was just to talk and just to feel safe enough to talk. I think that was a big issue that every guy said is, there's one thing about talking, but do I feel safe enough? And what does that mean? Because for me, I know what it means if I feel safe with somebody to talk to them, but I don't understand, I guess, when a man says it.
Yeah.
What does safety look like?
Well, I think if we think of the way that we raise boys, a little boy cries and we can often be quite critical, right? We might call them a derogatory name. We might embarrass them. We might shout at them or be even more angered at them because they're showing some vulnerability, some need, right? And I think it starts from there. There's not safety in many of our young boys having emotions. And so if that starts within the home, it's on the school playground, it's in the classroom, it's the interactions with teachers, it's, you're going to kind of learn how to keep that all inside and bury that far and not ever kind of put yourself willingly in a situation where you're going to be laughed at or embarrassed or chastised or criticized or judged.
Yeah.
You know?
So how do we go from that lesson as children, and male children, to being able to, in our hardest moment as a grown-up, as an adult, be able to dip our toe in the water and just say to a good friend, hey, you know what, I had a really hard day, or hey, you know what, I'm having a really hard time. That is leaning into our most vulnerable moments when we don't know what kind of response we're going to get.
Right.
We might get somebody say, oh, hey, you know, Joe's having a tough day. Hey, guys, somebody get him a drink. Or, hey, guys, somebody, hey, let's go take a seat over in the quiet corner and talk about it more, my friend, because you look like you're having a hard time.
Right.
And when we don't know which of those kind of responses we're going to get, it's really hard to take that first step. Right. But actually, in taking that first step and in leaning into our vulnerability, we're in a much better position to actually find someone who can help us feel a little bit better in that moment.
I want to read a quote from one of the people that I spoke with last night.
Okay.
And so I said, if they're giving me little statements, I said, I'm going to take your statements. I'm not going to attribute names to them. Out of respect that they answered me the way they did with such honesty. But one of the responses was, I think a lot of guys feel judged by their peers or partners based on how they were brought up. Like for me, I was never someone who thought that men also need an outlet to talk to someone. My peers didn't talk about their issues or feelings. They just bottled it up and moved on. So people will laugh and judge at guys when they say now that their mental health is a priority for them. And he did go on to say he used to be that guy who would laugh or just bottle it up, but now he's taking his mental health seriously and he does focus on that, and he feels a lot better as an individual as a father, as a partner in a relationship.
Yeah, and what a courageous thing, I think, for him to be able to share with you that acknowledgement that I used to feel and think like this too. Like, I think we can't blame others. We have to kind of all recognize that this is something we've all contributed to in some way or the other.
Right.
And so we collectively, though, can make it better, which I think is the hopeful piece of it.
Yeah.
And what a great thing that he could now reflect and say that I am making this a priority, partly, and the part that I heard was as a father, because that really is where we can start to change generational patterns, right? And we can start to make mental health a priority in our family systems, and we can start to make sure that our young boys and girls have a male role model who's talking about emotions, who's making it safe to talk about emotions.
I think that's very key, because Dr. Seymour, as you said earlier, especially as, from a baby, like you're crying, and then as you're given a derogatory name if you're crying, or, boys don't cry. I've pretty sure I've said that phrase in my life. I'm pretty sure every boy, every male has heard that phrase in their life. And that becomes a conditioning.
Yeah.
So if they fall, if they hurt themselves, if they feel bad, they can't express that feeling because, I'm not supposed to do this at all.
And if you can't express physical pain when you fall down and wipe off your bike, or how do you express emotional pain, which is more vague, which often we don't necessarily have the right words for it. It's harder to articulate.
We're also often waiting for someone to tell us how they feel. And what if, the man who gave you that quote, who has changed the way he thinks about this, what if he became a person among his friends to say, how are you? No, really, how are you? And then what if other people started doing the same thing because actually that felt nice?
Right.
It's not always just about waiting for someone to talk because they're struggling. It's also asking, really, how are you doing at the moment?
Right. So I'm glad you said that, because in another response from a gentleman, because one of my follow-up questions to them was, do you speak to somebody then? Do you feel like you have somebody to speak to? And that the first gentleman said he does actually have a childhood friend, that they're very honest with each other, doesn't feel judgmental at all. It was one person that they mentioned. One was enough, I guess, for him right now, but it at least it's somebody, right? One gentleman said, I'm going to make sure I got the right one. I might have the wrong one. Okay. I speak with friends who have issues and express my own in a way that relates. Sometimes knowing someone else is there for you, with you, gives positive affirmation and strength to carry on. One gentleman told me he has WhatsApp groups, and in his different various groups, he'll post a meme in there, just checking on you. How are you guys doing? I'm here to talk. If you're going through anything privately, just message me, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you don't have to respond to this message at all. You can just glaze right over it. But here I am. And so it's in all of his chat groups that he puts it in. And occasionally a guy will reach out to him and talk. But it's also him understanding that I've gone through things in my life and I need somebody to speak to. So I think there's so many there are men out there doing really, in that sense, non-traditional ways of communicating with their friends. But why weren't they taught to communicate and talk about these things in the first place? Like, why have we conditioned? Because I do believe it does start with raising your children. Why do we condition them to behave in a certain way, or say you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to act like that, you're the boy, you do this, or you're the girl, you're supposed to do this?
I think that is changing. I think that's really changing. I don't know about you, Dr. Seymour, but when we start now, when we do therapy here, when I do therapy here with families and children, I definitely see a different parental attitude to emotion, and that's like more and more and more my experience.
Yeah, I would agree. I meet with lots of parents who say they want to do things different.
Yeah.
Right? They've sort of recognized some of their experiences maybe aren't experiences they want their child to have.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit of a tricky conversation because we're also a culture of incredible respect for our elders. And so it's balancing that respect for our parents, but also an acknowledgement that we would like to parent different, or we would like to parent in a way that lets our kids have a different experience, especially around talking about things, emotions, experiences, relationships. I think, we could do a sociological deep dive into the way that men are socialized around the world or in different cultures, but I certainly think in the Caribbean, and I certainly think in most of the West, there is this kind of like man as the provider, man as in charge, and those come with certain character attributes, of which strength is really valued, courage is really valued, and we don't necessarily... I don't think we would rank vulnerability on a list of like who are the men that we see as the men we look up to or aspire to be or put on a pedestal. And so it's really recognizing that this is something that's going to take all of us. We want men to be able to speak comfortably and share, but we also have to be a community that's willing to create a space for that. And I think to the gentleman with the WhatsApp group, I actually think there are lots of men supporting men, and I think that's amazing. The thing that you read said, I just have one person, but the power of one person is so significant. We just need to know that there's one person in our life that we can really confide in, be heard by, share with. I would never discount the power of having one person in your life that is a safe place for you to go to. And if you're that one person for somebody, know how important you are.
Oh, that's hugely, yeah.
Yeah.
And one person is better than not no one.
Yeah. That really stood out to me as well, because most of the people I talk to, they might have like 15 to 20 friends, or maybe more if they count their good acquaintances. But most people will count on less than five fingers the people that they consider their golden circle of friends. And I was talking to a young woman this morning who was telling me that actually, is it okay that she only feels she's got 2 really good friends? And I was like, that's awesome. 2 people who you can be your true, absolute, authentic self with. You don't have to think really about what you're saying before you talk. You can tell them if you've had a horrible day. You can tell them if you're really sad. Yeah, that's amazing. We're fooled by society into thinking we need a huge group of friends, and actually for almost everybody that is not the case.
We have a caller online.
Okay.
So if we can take the call. Yeah, just pop your headphones on for the calls, ladies. Thank you. And good afternoon. Thank you for calling Talk Today.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Johan Moxham. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing, Johan?
Just wanted to say to the panel and also to the producers of Radio Cayman, thank you so much for putting a panel of competent, caring professionals on the radio, live and direct, and sharing their knowledge and all the rest of it. As a Caymanian man, now with 2 sons, not to delve into my own sort of issues, because we all have issues.
It's okay.
It's I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it was just maybe me and my generation, but the fact that you guys are there and you're talking and you're making sense and you're making an appeal to listeners via this forum, that just shows the growth of Cayman, I think. But I would beg, if at all possible, for you guys to make the rounds into the middle and high schools, because when you're 10, 12, 15, 16, sometimes your circumstances at home just aren't good, for the want of a better word. And it doesn't matter if you come from means or otherwise, it's just that we're almost taught that you're a man, so suck it up, you'll figure it out, and almost to suppress all of those things that niggle at you, for the want of a better word. But the fact that we're now in 2023, you've got the association and a cast of professionals like what you have in the studio, and I hear Miss Shannon there. Shannon, the work that you do, forever grateful to you and all of your colleagues. There's Alexandra, she's also amazing. I'm just making the point that as a country, there's a national conversation that needs to take place, especially with young men, because I think women are far more in tune with their feelings and issues and able to communicate that, whereas culturally we're almost taught that if you have an issue or if you have any problems at all, you're almost supposed to suck it up and just kind of keep pushing through. And there's some people that can deal with that. There's some people that have mastered the art of it, but it's not until you get older, and like myself, you know, professionally, you get a life coach or professional coach to just help you chart your course professionally. And then when you've got other issues, you know, I've you know, you speak to Dr. Lockhart, you speak to, you know, other sort of persons that can help you all the way through. But I'm just saying that if you guys could take the same thing that you're doing and just try to focus in on anybody from about 10 to 20, because that's at the stage where I think you're really bouncing all over the place emotionally. You don't have a clue. But Cayman now has help, and it has first-class professionals and people that really care, and confidentiality is real, which is crucial in a small community. Because the one thing, like, I have friends, we all have, you know, whatever. I mention a life coach, and they start making fun of, well, are you crazy? No, I'm not crazy. I'm just trying to figure out how to not give in to my short-temperedness.
You there, Johan? I don't know. It's just silence now, so I don't know if you got cut off. Yeah, you got cut off.
I might have lost him.
You're welcome to call back, Johan, if you'd like to finish your thought, because I did have a question I wanted to ask you in there as well. So please do feel free to call back. But ladies, did you want to comment on what he had said?
Yeah, I mean, I think Johan is a great articulator of what is happening in our community and our culture, and he's great at putting it into words and expressing it in a way that I think the average person understands. And I do agree that reaching young boys and men in primary school is really, really important. And I think we've got organizations like Boys to Men who are in the government system who are doing probably the most profound mental health work on the island. Yeah. We've got the Alex Panton Foundation, which does this amazing work with social emotional literacy in the primary schools, which is incredible. So there's lots and lots of efforts being made, and we will certainly, I'm happy to take any show on the road that involves talking about this stuff and helping us all to be a bit more psychologically resilient and healthier and happier. But I also, and my comment back to Johan was going to be, as a father.
He's on the phone, actually. He did call back.
Is he?
So
okay.
Well, Johan, we'll wait till Johan joins us again, and then you can comment directly.
Because
Johan, you there?
Cut off. I think the government cut me off.
Okay. Well, I'm surprised I'm on then if they cut you off. But please continue. Or Dr. Seymour wanted to share with you.
Johan, I don't know if you heard what I was saying previously after you got disconnected, but I think there is quite a bit going on right now in terms of the community and reaching out to young boys and men. And I'm happy. I mean, I think you're referencing the Psychological Association that both Dr. Basson and I are part of, and we're really excited for it to finally sort of be solidified and to be launching. And we definitely want to hear from the community in terms of what they think they would like from us in terms of, you know, what are the community needs. And so I'm hearing your recommendation to us loud and clear. But I also think that we need the dads in our community, and I have these conversations with my husband all the time around how important it is that that parent is ready to receive what the professional might be helping the young child with. Because if we go into the school and we talk to young kids and we encourage boys to share their feelings, and then they share that feeling at home and then they get shut down, that can be really hard. And then getting them to open up or to trust a professional. And so when I say that this is a community thing, this is a community thing. This isn't a professionals fixing this. This is everybody having a role to play. And the men in our community, I think, are pivotal in terms of being available to be that space for their own children or to the other children that they impact, to other children that they have interactions with. And I think that that's really, really important. And, you know, teaching our young boys how to have emotional conversations, how to identify what they're feeling. They're good at identifying anger, not so good at identifying maybe they were embarrassed by something, maybe they were feeling scared about something, maybe they're feeling overwhelmed about something or intimidated about something. Giving them a place to say that, but also making sure that that place is going to be a parent who's going to say, gosh, thanks for letting me know how you feel. What if we kept talking about this together? You know, maybe I don't have all the answers for you, but thank you for letting me know how you feel, and maybe together we can find the answers.
No, Doc, just again, anything that you guys, the fact that we're having this conversation on national radio and it's open and it's positive and you guys are sharing the real truth as to how we help individuals, families, community, I think that's a step in the right direction. I know what I don't know, and I just wanted to, having listened to you guys, I just wanted to call in and say a million thank yous because, right, I'm finally a dad, and so I kind of get this responsibility that you can read all the books, but the books don't really tell you how this thing works.
They do not.
And then you go a step further. Your boys have friends, so now I care about them on levels that I never thought that I should care because I don't want to embarrass or know too much about somebody else's family life. But I've figured out that that cluster of boys, they share so much with each other that you got to have a touch point to understand, you know, what's going on with the crew, because the crew influence one another, good or bad. You know what I mean? So again, I'm not saying this because you're on radio, but if you look at, you're talking about programs, you look at Academy. Academy isn't just a football club, okay? Academy saves lives. Coach Paul, Coach Virgil, a lot of the people there, you guys have been doing this for a very long time, and I can say I know tens, 20, 30 boys that come from situations whereby their outlet of positivity and guidance comes from that sort of foundation and that infrastructure, right? So I get it what you said. I just recognize I don't pretend to know everything. I know I'm miserable and I know I read a lot, but I just wanted to acknowledge and say a million thank yous to all of you in that professional space, helping us understand it isn't as simple as grabbing a kid and talking to a kid. It's the parents have to be bought in, the school has to be bought in, and we really need to take the time to get that child, young person, young man, comfortable enough to understand there's no judgment in this. We just want to help you reach the best level for you and the destination that you want to go to. So that's all I was trying to say. And
hold on. Don't hang up yet. Don't hang up.
So I think you've made such a valuable point in there, and I think it's worth coming back to. So your son, congratulations on being a dad, an amazing dad by the sounds of it, but your son now has a crew. Imagine if 30 years from now, like, oh yeah, do you remember our friend so-and-so's dad? Like, when I was having that tough time, he was the person I spoke to. Just because it might not be your own parent, you might not have a parent as a child, you could make a profound difference in the community just by being somebody's dad and having these conversations. So I think, keep talking about this, keep talking to the coaches at Academy about this, because they're ultimately the people who are going to make the bigger difference.
No, I appreciate that. My greatest fear was the sensitivities of people in society and other adults, that I've seen situations where I've seen a toddler going to do something dangerous, and I go, no, don't do that. And I've had the look of don't say anything to my child, and I'm thinking to myself, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, so just kind of leave that alone. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen to other people, but I didn't get it until it happened to me, so I'm very cautious in how you try to guide and help other people's kids, because we live in a weird world where, for instance, Shannon's been here forever. Shannon speaks about things in Cayman that no one else has spoken about, and she knows her stuff inside out. And yet, when convenient, we will say, well, she's just some Canadian woman. No.
I'm not going to, I'm not going to argue that. Unfortunately, there's so much truth in what you just said.
No, but I just look at it and I'm like, she knows what she's talking about. I'm trying to help. I don't know what I'm talking about, so let me just pump brakes for a minute, you know what I mean? So that's all I'm saying, guys. And again, sincere thank you. Keep it going.
Johan, I got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I hope, if you're not comfortable to answer, just say, you just hang up the phone and we'll say the government cut you off, okay? but it's the question that I did ask men last night. And for a man in your phase of life right now, would you be willing to share with us what you think your biggest struggle is that you wouldn't feel comfortable really talking about, that you don't feel comfortable talking about?
When it comes as a parent or as a man in general?
Just as a man in general.
I think we've taught men that they're supposed to. There's a formula to being a man, and sometimes if you don't follow that roadmap strictly, then apparently you're lesser of a man. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, I don't have the best patience in the world. I talk really candidly, and I try to figure out what's right and what's wrong and what's truth and what's a lie really quickly, right? So I struggle with, when trying to have a conversation, what is fluff and what is sincere conversations, like what you guys are doing live on radio, right? That question is a great question. So now, if you take that as one of the issues that I have, when you're a parent, you can't rush your kids or fast forward them along to get to the answer that you want. You have to legitimately take your time, prod, nudge, cajole, help them feel comfortable enough where they can piece their different emotions together. And my boys are 16 and one is 7, right? So it's two different extremes of trying to get the answer that you're looking for. And I just think that we've spent so much time as a country lying to boys as to, you're supposed to be this, and this. And as men, we then become stuck in that sort of thinking. So now I read a whole lot because I understand kids today are very different from my generation. Very, very different. They're a lot more in tune with their emotions. They're prepared to express themselves. Whereas when you were 12 and you were moody or whatever, somebody would bellow at you and just go, "Stop being moody, you're acting like a girl," which doesn't help at all. You see what I mean? So I just recognize that one size does not fit all, and we just need to be cognizant of different people reach the destination at a different time, but we got to take the time to know them. But I'm still learning me, and I'm just figuring that out now, if that makes any sense.
That does. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution and for your calling in with your comments. We really appreciate it.
All the best, ladies. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
You too, bye. I really appreciate what he said, especially when he said that there's a mold or a program that men have to kind of fit in to become a man, and if you're not in that program, well, then you're less of a man. Mm-hmm. You're not really a man. That's a very dangerous, one-dimensional way of thinking, I think.
And I think that speaks to some, you were originally, or had asked one of the questions, like, why don't men seek help? And I think a lot of it has to do with the stuff that Johan mentioned, that starts when you're young, where you're kind of shamed or embarrassed or teased for any type of vulnerability, and then that kind of becomes your way of operating. And then maybe we develop unhealthy ways of coping with our emotions. We drink, or we do other things that aren't very healthy for us, for our families, for us personally. And when things get really bad, if we've never ever developed the skills, practiced that muscle of help seeking, it becomes almost impossible when we're in a moment of very, very deep despair to now start to develop a skill. Right? If we thought of any skill, think of woodworking. When you're in the moment of despair, you're not learning a new skill. And help seeking is a skill that we have to teach boys and adolescent boys and young men and grown men and our fathers and our grandpas how to do, so that when they're in a moment of despair, they know how to do it. And I don't want to, I think when we're talking particularly about suicide, it's very complicated. And there certainly isn't one answer for every situation. But I do think if we as a society want to have a response and we want to find a way to honor those who have left us, it is to make this a kinder, safer place for all, and particularly for our men, because they get beat up quite a bit in our community, and we should be making sure that their needs are met when it comes to their mental health needs, for sure.
They do. I 100% agree with you. We have to go to a bit of a long commercial break because we missed the 1:31. So we're going to combine these commercial breaks together, and then we'll return with Dr. Shannon Seymour and Dr. Chantal Basson.
Okay.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub.
Say what?
The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
No, man. I'm tired of seeing a new charge on my phone bill every month.
You are always complaining about that bill. I think it's time you make that switch to Digicel.
I've been with my network for more than a decade. I don't know if I want to move over now.
Well, better later than never. When you switch to Digicel, you get better speeds, more data, and simply more value. Best of all, no dishonest practices. What they say is what you get. Make that switch today and get 50% off your first 2 months.
50% off my first 2 months? Mary, you're convincing me now. Okay, I will visit a Digicel store near me.
Experience the bigger, better network. Switch your postpaid number to Digicel for 50% off your first 2 months or get a free 30-day Prime bundle for prepaid customers. Make the switch today.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from July 9th through 15th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
I love Pizza Boat. It's yummy. It has my two favorite things combined, cheese and boats. Pizza Boat makes pizza way more fun.
Hop on board the Pizza Boat Express. Kids, now Pizza Boat makes pizza even more fun. Summer is here. Lunch or dinner, let Pizza Boat bring the fun. Pizza Boat, a Cayman twist to pizza, bringing fusion ingredients from all over the globe to give you locally inspired fresh pizzas all day, every day. Pizza Boat, now open in Queens Court on West Bay Road. Pick up or delivery 949-0000 or order online www.pizzaboat.ky.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN Money Transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
Health behaviours and lifestyle choices such as diet and smoking can be risk factors for non-communicable diseases. The STEPS 2023 National Health Survey will allow the Ministry of Health and Wellness to gather important data on the health of the nation, including these risk factors. This information will inform our plans for the health needs of Cayman's residents, allowing us to better serve our population. Learn more by logging on to www.gov.ky/steps.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for one, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, includes sightseeing, Christmas delivery, restoration, and social services.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Listen to the general public. Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Radio Cayman's Talk Today program this Wednesday, July 5th. I'm Kathy Miller filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And in studio this afternoon I have Dr. Shannon Seymour, clinical psychologist and founder of the Wellness Center, and Dr. Chantal Basson, clinical psychologist at Aspire Therapeutic Services. Right before the break, we had heard from a caller who was sharing some of experiences as well as being a man and the things that he's also struggling with and what he sees as a dad. Now, to go back to our earlier conversation, ladies, where we're discussing the different struggles and men seeking help. And I'm cognizant, Dr. Basson, you have to leave in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But if you could tell us, because you've been here for a little under 2 years.
Yeah.
So if you could tell us, I guess, what the biggest differences that you've noticed coming to treat, people here in comparison to the UK where you were previously working.
Yeah, I mean, I've historically worked in adolescent mental health services and child mental health services in the north of England. Moving here, what I've been so struck by is the number of men and dads who come. Dads who want to make sure their kids are okay. Dads who want to build a better relationship with their kids. Dads who want a bit of help for themselves to be better dads. I've never seen as many men. And I was talking to my husband again on the way here in the car. Like, what's your experience? He's in HSA as a male psychologist. And he said, no, he said, I would absolutely agree with that. He says, most of my client load is adult men seeking help. And he said, it's incredible, the number of men who do actually seek help for themselves here. They're not just sent by somebody.
So because in my mind, I believe that it is a cultural thing where it's a very strong Caribbean culture, and it's a very kind of alpha male dominant kind of culture, right? So I would have thought the opposite.
Yeah,
that
right.
that the Caribbean men are trained that you don't go ask for help, you don't talk to people, but you're saying it's the opposite in your experience.
It's the opposite, which is really interesting, like you say, given the amount of stigma there is around mental health. I mean, there is also loads of stigma in the UK, but we've had lots of like sports stars, male sports stars, starting to stand up and say, kind of, me too, I've struggled with mental health, and that's really helped the cause for boys and men. And I'm not honestly sure what it is here and how men manage to overcome the stigma barrier, but they absolutely do. Maybe it's confidentiality, maybe it's because they have a real belief that actually, there is safety in the room. But people certainly want help here. And if we can help to increase their sense of acceptance and belonging and connection with those around them and within themselves, then we're reducing the stigma and improving mental health at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting observation, because I think I probably would have been, I guess it's maybe the stiff upper lip. I know Canadian, kind of have this stoic, like, you don't talk about emotions. And I guess what I'm thinking, just as you're sharing that, as it relates to stigma, is I think we have fairly accessible pathways to help here. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty, you could make a couple of calls and have an appointment within a day or two here. It might not be the case in the NHS or the UK. So
absolutely not.
It could be, the difference is that here it is, we're very, very fortunate that we have a very robust community of mental health providers, and it's relatively easy to access it. It's not always easy to afford it. There's lots of barriers as it relates to insurance and funding, but we don't have for therapy, year-long wait lists, or where you have to sort of jump through 14 hoops to get to see somebody. Mm-hmm. There are there are sort of things that you have to do, and people might call in and say, that wasn't my experience. So I don't want to make it sound like perfect or easy by any means. Yeah. But in terms of other healthcare systems, like I know in Canada, it can be a 2-year wait list to see a psychologist.
And we don't have 2 years.
Right. And we don't have those kinds of wait lists for adult population. For some specialized services, we have wait lists, but for, somebody wanting to get treatment for depression, we don't have those kinds of wait lists, which is a really wonderful thing. I'd be interested to know, because where I think stigma comes in is also people's willingness to talk and share about it. Because I think if I had a broken ankle and I went to physio, I would tell my buddies I was going to physio. Mm-hmm. But I wonder how many of our men who are seeking help are sharing with their friends, I'm struggling with my mental health. I've been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. I've been diagnosed with a mood disorder, and I'm seeing a psychiatrist, because I think that there's multiple layers of stigma. I think there might be this access to services, but then there is a stigma that you don't breathe a word of it to your friends and family.
Right.
So it's like we have to be cognizant of that. And in the community, the way that we talk when we're around a barbecue, when we're with friends, how are we talking about people with mental health problems that will allow them to share that?
Very excellent point. We do have to have that just the space that they can talk. I know Dr. Chantal Besson has to go. I'm waving goodbye to her.
Bye,
thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
I believe we have a caller on the line, so let's take the call.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Talk Today.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies.
How are you doing?
Hey, any better, I couldn't stand it. Yeah, this is Dominic Ebanks. Kathy and Shannon, I listen to the program, and obviously I see you guys are talking about mental health and so forth. But and I was very surprised just now where one of your guests in the studio was mentioning that men nowadays are a lot more focused on their children. I guess comparing from some other jurisdictions that they had experience with, and listening to that was a very positive sound, because here in Cayman especially, I feel like a lot of men do care about their children. Some of them do fall into certain situations where they're not financially able to give them everything that we'd want in that manner. But for the most part, they're always on the mind of most of the fathers, especially a lot of them that I know. And they don't all lead by a good example, which must be said. But, where you were mentioned just now about mental health, as to where you would go and tell your friends you're going to your, physio to get your ankle checked versus tell them, hey, I'm going down, to the mental so-and-so. It does have that stigma, and a lot of it it does affect anybody mentally, whether you're a first-time person probably going to get yourself checked or a follow-up. It still has that stigma here where, if you apply for a job and you put those stuff on it, it becomes very questionable. If you tell your friends where you're going, those things, it becomes questionable. So it does still have that stigma and that hurdle that, we have to overcome, probably especially here in Cayman as well. But you can find that across the board, pretty much in a jurisdiction you go. So anything to do with mental health always raises a flag for some reason. But it was certainly positive to hear that other people have experienced and been able to analyze. Say, hey, Cayman, the men here have stepped up to the plate and at least have showed a lot more interest in their children. And I'm quite sure that's probably, a hand down, especially from a lot of the mothers and fathers here in Cayman over time, dedicating a lot of time and interest in their children. So it's almost like a cultural thing. We can't speak for every other Caribbean island because obviously we can see Cayman itself being influenced from other cultures here, and it does cause some negativity versus positive stuff. But for the most part, I can certainly agree that, the fathers here obviously, finding a lot more interest in their children.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't hear you on my phone.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing
I'll
your
let you
thoughts
guys
with
know
us.
that. Thank you, that as well.
We appreciate it. We really do.
I think there's been tremendous effort in our community. I mean, for 20 years, we've been sort of talking about mental illness, trying to reduce stigma, trying to increase access pathways, trying to make sure that there's legislation and policies, so there's been a lot of work that's been going on by lots of different organizations and lots of different individuals. And so I think, maybe what we're seeing some positive things, but yet we're also seeing, an increase in suicide. And so it's this two sides of this. Like on one hand, we have made so much progression in so many ways, but yet we're losing people in our community that mean a lot to us and to the people that love them.
And it's very hard to understand.
It is hard to understand, and it doesn't make any sense. And how do we not sit and sort of congratulate ourselves too much on the progression that we have made and the positive changes, but we really recommit to make sure that we do things even better, that we understand this even more, that we make sure that we are accessing and making sure that the support is available for the people that need it the most. And I think the caller, Dominic, his point, that stigma exists within our community around talking about mental health treatment and talking about mental health diagnoses. And I think, stigma is broken by courageous people talking about things. And we think of the Alex Panton Foundation and the great work that they've done. And that's been because the Panton family have been brave to talk about their experience and the death of their son, Alex.
Absolutely.
And so I think we can break stigma when we talk about it. So when we say, hey, and it doesn't have to be with a microphone in front of you, and it doesn't have to be to a great big room full of people, but maybe it could be to somebody that you trust. I've just been diagnosed with anxiety and I'm going to start seeing a therapist. And I wanted to share with somebody. But we've got to be a community that's ready to receive that information, because if we don't also want to, we want to increase people's access to treatment, but we want them to live in a community where they also get the social and community support for what they need. Because coming to see a therapist for 1 hour every 2 weeks is important, but we're human beings and we're complicated and we live within lots of spaces and we have relationships with lots of people. And so we need to have health and well-being that extends outside of an office to our lives as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And feel comfortable enough that I can discuss it and not have a sense of shame that I'm going to a therapist. And I know people have that sense of like embarrassment or shame. I'm going to be labeled as crazy or something's wrong with me. And there's nothing furthest from the truth with that. If you need somebody to talk to, you need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And I can say from my experience, when I had first gone to see a therapist or a psychologist for anything, and I did share this with friends. This is what I'm going through. I'm talking to this lady. It's helped me tremendously. I had the 3 friends that I did share it with, every single one of them absolutely broke down with me.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go? I need to find somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And just that little bit of knowing that I was comfortable enough to share that and open up. That was fine with me. I think we all need one in our pocket. I wish I could take you home with me, Dr. Seymour. But just that little bit of me saying I'm doing it was enough of a catalyst for them to get that little ambition to make an appointment for themselves.
Yeah.
Or seek help. We have to go to our 2 p.m. news headline.
Okay.
A little late.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to address some of the stigmas and what happens when you are in therapy, you are seeking help, but you just might not see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our headlines and we'll be back with Dr. Shannon Seymour.
Radio Cayman,
The voice,
the heart, the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The RCIPS Cybercrime Unit is aware of the attached SMS message circulating, which claims to be from UPS. They warn the community that this is a scam and it is trying to steal your credit debit card details. If you receive this message, do not click on the link, but instead delete the message immediately. For other cybercrime prevention tips, visit explore.gov.ky/cybersafe. In international news, the world's average temperature reached a new high on Monday, July 3rd, topping 62 degrees Fahrenheit for the first time. Scientists say the reading was the highest in any instrumental record dating back to the end of the 19th century. The high heat is due to a combination of the El Niño weather event and ongoing emissions of carbon dioxide. Researchers believe there will be more records in the coming months as El Niño strengthens. The U.S. Secret Service is investigating after cocaine was found at the White House on Sunday night. The discovery in the West Wing, which contains the Oval Office and other working areas for presidential aides and staff, led to a brief evacuation. Secret Service agents found the suspicious powder in an area that is accessible to tour groups while doing a routine inspection. A senior law enforcement official told the BBC's U.S. partner CBS News the substance was found in a storage facility routinely used by White House staff and guests to store mobile phones. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for one, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, includes sightseeing, Christmas deliveries, restoration, and social services.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. I'm Kathy Miller, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Banks. I'm in studio with Dr. Shannon Seymour, founder and clinical psychologist at the Wellness Center. We are discussing men's mental health, their biggest struggles, suicide awareness and prevention, which we'll get into more detail shortly. And I want to remind people that you can give us a call, 1-800-534-8255, 949-8037, 949-6990, or you can WhatsApp us at 925-3261. Yes, you can hear my voice cracking, and maybe if you're on YouTube, you'll see my eyes tearing up, but this is a really, for us right now at Radio Cayman, it's a personal conversation. It's a very hard conversation to have, but, we need to have it, and we had just mentioned stigmas right before that break, so I wanted to go into what these stigmas are that men are dealing with, and I can admit that some of these stigmas I have in my head about men. So let's address what you think some of those stigmas are that men are dealing with.
Well, I think the biggest one is needing psychological or psychiatric help is seen as weakness, right? Nobody would question that you need to go to a doctor if you have a broken leg because you can't do that yourself. Nobody would question that you need to see a doctor if you have a major medical problem because you can't treat cancer on your own. But when it comes to mental health, we have this inaccurate belief that if you're strong enough, or if you're just positive enough, or if you just, get out there and exercise, that it's all going to go away. And it really minimizes the complexity of mental illness, and it minimizes the complexity of the brain as an organ. Because for people who are experiencing chronic, severe, debilitating depression, it is not something that they want to have. It is not something that they are not trying their best to get treatment for. And I don't know anybody who has died by suicide at the end of a battle with depression that has not tried everything, who has not spoken to doctors, who's not gone to treatment, who's not really, really, really wanted to be better. And I think that we need to understand that so that we can be compassionate, so that we can shift away from this idea that it is something you need to snap out of, or that it is something that you need to just think about something positive and this will go away. We would never say that to somebody battling cancer. We would never say, hey, just think positive. It's absolutely an important part of treating any major medical condition, right? Your mindset and being positive. But what if the organ that was impacted by the illness that you had impacts your mindset, right? And that creates the stigma when we assume that people can do this on their own, or that this is something they should be able to do on their own. It puts an unfair expectation on them that they need to be silent about this, not share this with anybody, be embarrassed about this, and it doesn't serve anybody. Family members then feel kind of alone in this journey. They feel like they can't share with anybody, out of often loyalty or just loving that person so much. They don't want to necessarily talk about something that they worry would affect how that person is seen in the community. And so the stigma doesn't just affect the person with the mental health condition, it affects the people around them that are helping them, the people that love them.
You said a whole lot there. I'm trying to gather a lot of that. So we have these stigmas, right? How can we best avoid them? Like, is it a relearning? Do I have to relearn and really rethink, what I'm saying to people, or how I'm addressing somebody or a situation? Does it really start with me?
I think it does start with all of us. And I do think it is a relearning. It's a challenging our belief systems. All of us right now, no matter where we are, we can just ask ourselves, what are our beliefs about depression? What are our beliefs about suicide? What are our beliefs about mental illness? And honestly answer that question. What do I believe it is? Because I think that's where we can really make a difference. Because if we can challenge that, or we can say, hey, that's not kind of what I've been hearing on this show. So maybe I need to do a bit of education, a little bit of relearning. Maybe I need to challenge myself. I need to talk to somebody about this. I think that stigma starts with all of us being really honest and taking a hard look in the mirror. What is it that I believe about these things? Because then it comes out in our comments, in our body language, in our facial expressions, in the way that we hear somebody talking and we kind of have an opinion about them. So I think it does start with everybody in the community. And I love that you were able to say, I have stigma. Like, I'm a human being first. I always say to people, like, I was a human being long before I was a psychologist. And so we all have this. We all have to do this on a regular basis. The only difference is I've had years and years of training, whereas the average person hasn't had years and years of training around how to understand this, identify this, and then also reflect in terms of your own biases and stigmas and your own experiences with it.
I think you hit a really key point when you say you have years and years of training. And I say that to say it's years and years of conditioning that could happen to us, or how we're taught to think. And then how we just naturally end up thinking. That's years and years. And we can see it when we get into it's how we talk to ourselves. It's a really, really big deal, right? How you talk to yourself. And if you're used to being spoken to a certain way, spoken down to, everybody's criticizing you, you have a very critical voice in your head. And it can take a long time to get rid of that. Because that's for 20, 30 years that might be in your brain.
Yeah.
And that's what you know. So this isn't going to go away overnight, but I think it's realizing that, okay, this is happening. I'm recognizing it. I have to see if I can change this with your mind, with your thought patterns. And and if you don't know what to say, and somebody, you're worried about somebody, or you're seeing changes in somebody's behavior, or you sense that there's something going on, you can ask, are you okay? Are you, how's your mental health? How's your sleeping? How's your eating? And you don't have to have the perfect answer. You can just say, thank you for sharing that with me. I think one of the most powerful things that you can say to anybody if they've chosen to share something with you is to thank them for sharing that. Yeah. We often do this thing where we then tell them what they need to do to fix it. Right. So somebody says, oh, my back is hurting. Oh, well, you need to do A, B, and C. Or, oh, this is kind of something I'm going through. Oh, well, you know what? When that happened to me, I did this, this, and this. And that is no quicker way to shut somebody down than to tell them what to do. Now, they might ask you, what do you recommend? Then you can tell them. But the first thing out of our mouths needs to be, thank you for telling me what's going on with you.
So when somebody does approach, if I was to approach you and say, Dr. Seymour, I'm feeling really low, very overwhelmed with this. I don't think I can really make it.
Yeah. I'm going to say thank you so much for sharing that, because I know how hard that can be. And then we can move into, have you talked to anybody else about this? Is there anybody that I can put you in contact with? What, then we can move into like maybe finding some resources or getting you connected. But the first step is listening, right? It's just saying, thank you for sharing that with me. How long has this been going on? When we talk about sort of suicide prevention or mental health prevention, is we want to know kind of duration and intensity. How long have you been feeling like this? If somebody says that they feel like their life isn't worth living anymore, how long have you been feeling like this? Is it getting better or worse? Right? Mm-hmm. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for choosing to share that with me. Can I ask you a few questions? How long have you been feeling this? How long have you been thinking this? Just yesterday? Okay. Did anything happen yesterday? Or I've been feeling this for months and months and months. So we know like duration and intensity often increases risk. We often see behavior in people that we identify as different, but we don't approach them. And our mental health first aid tells us that we need to approach.
What kind of behavior? Like red flags?
Red flags would be, the person who is always the life of the party is all of a sudden absent. The person who is, never misses work is all of a sudden not at work. the person who we often see a risk, people who are sort of saying their goodbyes, right? This person's not a talker. They've never said anything, and all of a sudden they're coming to me and saying, I just want to tell you how important you are to me. Mm-hmm. We often see people giving away possessions, right? Those are some sort of concrete red flags. And if we know that those are red flags, then if we see them, we can build a support system or a safety net around somebody. Maybe we're going to monitor, for the next couple, we're not letting somebody be by themselves for the next week because we're seeing some of these red flags that we know aren't necessarily a guarantee, but we know that these are some of the red flags that somebody is thinking about ending their life. And we can ask them, have you had any thoughts of suicide? Have you thought about hurting yourself? And we often get scared about that because we think, gosh, if we ask them, that's going to make them think about it, if maybe even if they weren't. And we know that that is not the case. If somebody's absolutely not thinking about suicide, simply asking them about it is not going to suddenly make them just, start to think about this. But if they are, the majority of times when you ask somebody a direct question, they will answer truthfully, right? Have you ever had a thought of hurting yourself? Have you ever thought of taking your life? Most people that have had those thoughts will say yes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't ask that question because we're scared of that answer.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But as community people, there is training out there. There's mental health first aid out there.
And if you don't know what to do, if I didn't know what to do at a point where somebody is feeling really suicidal, and yes, they're talking and confiding in me, but I feel there's more I can do, but I have no idea how to help this person. Mm-hmm. What would you suggest?
I'd say you say to them, listen, I am so glad you shared this with me, and I'm so glad you told me how you're feeling and what you're thinking. Would it be okay if I made a call? Would it be okay if we went to the hospital right now? Would it be okay if I called somebody? Because I want to make sure you're safe, but I don't know how to do that.
Okay. In the then there's the case of you are being treated. You're getting help. It could be psychiatrists or therapists. It could be a combination with that and medicine. Mm-hmm. You're given prescription drugs to maybe elevate a mood or help you sleep or whatever it might be. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes these treatments don't work. So if I was going through this and I know I'm medicated or I am going through therapy sessions and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. This is such a loaded question, but what happens then? Because in our instance, in our loss of life last week from suicide, it was the case where he was seeking help. I know that. I'm not going to divulge, any more information. And with much love and respect to the family. But at that point, it's like I would feel so hopeless in that sense. I'm doing as much as I can to try to help the person, but if I was helping, but if I'm also in that situation, I don't see no light at the end of the tunnel. Then what?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah.
I just think it's why it's often such a tragedy. And I don't know anybody who has died by suicide that has not been actively trying to get some help in some capacity. And it's one of the things that I think we need to really grapple with is that mental illness is serious. And mental illness isn't something that we should be joking about. It's not something that we should be casually, oh my gosh, I'm so depressed today. It is a serious medical condition that often ends with a loss of life. Mm-hmm. And it's complicated because we don't understand it. Mm-hmm. And I think to me, all that makes me reaffirm commitment to make sure we have to do a better job as a community of professionals, as an entire society. But I think that unfortunately, that's common, is that people are trying to get help because this is not a choice that somebody makes that is not in a very, 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 significant and profound state of illness.
Okay. Yeah, it's a hard one. Sorry to drop that question on you, but I knew it was a hard one. But it's the reality of what we're going through right now. And you said to me in a commercial break that we have, or Cayman as a community has reached milestones in in addressing mental health, and we seem to be strongly behind it in supporting those that are having struggles with mental health. But what really concerns you was seeing the rise in suicide rates, despite the achievements that we are making in addressing mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we look at our inpatient mental health facility, and we've been hearing all along that it is full, that it's at capacity. We are living in a time where there is incredible stress. We've just come out of a pandemic, which we knew. Dr. Lockhart told us. He spoke all the time about the pandemic will end, and then we will see a mental health pandemic afterwards. So I think that there's a lot of factors contributing to it. I think there's a lot of social changes. There's a lot of pressures. There's a lot of economic challenges. There's a lot of reasons why, even though all these positive things are happening, we still continue to see people having a really hard time with their mental health. And that is not, we're not unique in that way. So these statistics are around the world when we look at sort of global rates. Mm-hmm. And it's something we all need to take serious. We need to kind of all recognize, what is it that I can do? How can I educate myself? I think, workplaces can talk about mental health first aid. Families can talk openly. If you've got somebody in your family that is struggling with a mental health condition, find a way, find somebody you trust to help widen that conversation so that is not on one or two people's shoulders, right? That there are more people being able to kind of safeguard these people in our community who need safeguarding, right?
Right. And it just brings us back to the point of just talking up a little bit, because you never know that kind of momentum, that effect it'll have on people. So it'll make it a little bit more acceptable, a little more normalized, in the sense that we are struggling with things. And I look at it like you have to take care of your mind, because if you got into a horrific car accident, and you're paralyzed, everywhere you're paralyzed, you will never have use of those limbs again. But your mind hasn't shut down yet. There's a reason why they haven't pulled the plug or, ended your life for you in that, circumstance. There's a reason they're waiting for your mind. Your mind is still active. Your mind is still so useful. So it's the rest of you can be shut down and gone. Mm-hmm. But your mind is so much more powerful. So they're waiting for that to, in that sense, kind of, you're waiting for you to wake up, because it can also control the rest of your body. You might get use of your limbs back again. It might be a miracle. But the thing is, it's your mind that most people are waiting on. So it shows the importance so much of, it's when your mind is completely shut down, that's when that plug is pulled. But when you know that there's still hope in there, you keep going.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for people to realize that, yes, you do have to take care of your mind, just like any other body part that you have, any other thing about you. Your mind is perhaps the most important thing.
Yeah. And also that the mind, mental illness is a real medical condition. It is not a personal character fault. It is not, personal transgressions. It is an organ, and a complicated one that is highly impacted by stress. And so it can become unwell. And we need to start seeing mental illness as an illness, not as a social or personal weakness. It is definitely an illness, and we need to start to see it as that, so that we can treat early, diagnose early. We know that, getting people into treatment early can make a big difference. There will be times where, all the things that we're saying were done, and somebody has died tragically, right? And I think that leaves all of us a bit confounded and shooken, right? And sort of sitting back and as a community, we collectively grieve, and as a community, we're collectively sort of struggling to figure out why and how and is this possible?
Is there more I could have done?
Of course. And I think any of us that have an ounce of decency are going to ask ourselves that. Right? We should all be asking ourselves that. What could I have done something more different? Because that's how we learn. that's how we're going to see the signs the next time. That's, we talk, I think when somebody dies by suicide, we often start the conversation of suicide, but I also know that there are multiple people in the community who have been at that brink, and the support network and the medical community worked, right? And they were able to get to a place of safety, and they've been able to find a place of recovery and well-being. And so I want there to be hopefulness in the community that well-being and a return to health is possible.
It is possible.
Yeah.
We definitely want that hope out there. For anybody that is listening to our show this afternoon, and you're feeling away, very low, very sad, suicidal, very depressed. If it is an emergency, I think the recommendation is to call 911. I'm right?
You can call 911. You can go to the emergency room at Health Services Authority. They have psychiatrists on call. If you are an adolescent or a young adult, you can walk into Alex's place, which is at the HSA, and they can provide some triage and immediate assessment. We also have K-Mind, which is a hotline you can call. We can, 1-800-534-6465. There are lots of resources. And so reach out for help. And if you're worried about somebody that you love, ask that difficult question, and then, see what you can do in terms of creating even a safety plan around that person for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours.
It's a start.
Yeah.
It's a start. We only have maybe a minute before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that you would like to leave the community with, our listening audience, there's a lot of people grieving with the suicide that happened last week. And that gentleman also worked with somebody else at CUC where, CUC lost 2 of their long-term employees in less than a week, which is a horrible tragedy. It's very, very sad. Both very unexpected. So if there's any kind of last words that you would want to leave with our audience when it's dealing with the grief or trying to understand how to just speak with somebody that is feeling suicidal or themselves might be feeling away, please take the next couple minutes to do so.
I think as a community, because we're so small, we're often very impacted by these kinds of tragedies in our community in a way that we wouldn't necessarily be if we were in a great big city. Because while we might not know the person, we know somebody who knows the person, or we have had another person. There's right. These degrees of separation that bind us as a community.
Very much.
And so when there's pain in our community, we all feel that in some way. And on one hand, that's a beautiful thing because we have that shared support for other. But at the same time, if you're somebody that's really struggling, this is another stressor. And so we want to be looking out for those people in our life that we know have had mental health problems in the past. We want to be looking out for those people that we maybe know have had suicidal thoughts in the past. We're checking on them. We're asking them specific questions. And I think, when somebody dies in an unexpected and tragic way, and particularly when somebody dies by suicide, there is often a lot of, chatter. There's a lot of opinions and theories and ideas. And I think that there is a time for understanding what happened, but I think there is more of a need for compassion and kindness. And if we're sort of trying to assign blame or we're trying to find who's responsible, it's not it's not a helpful conversation to be having. What's far more helpful is if we can, focus on the loss that we've experienced, on honoring that person's memory, and on supporting their loved ones.
All right, thank you. Those were very kind and supportive ending words for our show this afternoon. I want to thank both you and Dr. Chantal Besson as well for coming in. And for all our listening audience, thank you so much. If you could repeat that hotline number, I think it was K-Mind.
K-Mind is 1-800-534-6463.
All right, thank you very much. So if you need a hotline number to call, please check them out. You can also go to the emergency room at HSA as well. And there's a number of different psychologists and therapists that you can reach out to as well. And remember, just talk, just start the conversation, even just with yourself, start that conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on Talk Today. And I know that there's certain listeners out there that did tune into the show, and just know that you are very loved and very supportive, and we are with you in this time. Thank you for joining us, and tomorrow you'll be back with me on Talk Today. Good afternoon.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger